Hello everyone and welcome back over to the DM side. Now, as you can see, we have a slightly different view today. I got a brand new lens and so I'm testing it out. Comment down below if you like this view. Today's video, we are going to talk about Candlekeep. If you are up to date with any recent news, you'll have seen that D&D has just released or just announced Candlekeep Mysteries, which is an anthology book which will consist of 17 standalone stories or quests or adventures, however you would like to put it, and they'll range from levels 1 through to 16. Now, on top of that, we'll get a map, and obviously we'll get a lot more detail about Candlekeep in particular. So today, I really want to talk about what is Candlekeep, what do we kind of already know as general information, and then towards the end of the video, I'm going to talk about what I would like to see in this book. So comment down below what you would like out of the book. As always, like the video because it really does help the channel. Share it with any friends that you think might find some value in it, and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get straight into the video. So what is Candlekeep? Okay, so Candlekeep is a fortress that is actually built on the cliff's edge that looks out to the Sea of Swords down on the Sword Coast, just south of Baldur's Gate. Now, why is Candlekeep so important that it deserves to get its own book? If you know nothing about Candlekeep, this is the one thing that you need to know, even especially as a DM, is the fact that Candlekeep holds a great library, and across all of Faerun, it holds the greatest written lore of the realm. So it's really important to have in your campaign. Now, Candlekeep is run by a group of monks known as the Avowed, and they are sworn servants of the Great Keep. Before they can be permitted to actually even take the oath to join the order, they have to go through rigorous training and trials to weed out any who would be lying to get in for their own personal gain. And their priority, their very first priority, is protecting the contents of the Great Library from those who would seek to steal it or destroy it. Now, Candlekeep being run by the Avowed monks, they aren't your typical Dungeons and Dragons class of the monk. They are really more cloistered scholars who are quite knowledgeable on, well, an array of things. They don't really possess or don't always possess magical abilities, but are knowledgeable on magical abilities in particular, should they ever encounter them. And on top of that, obviously, just because they are called monks doesn't mean that they don't have their own ways of protecting themselves. So they generally will have some magic items that can help them call for help in great times of need. And on top of that, you can find within their ranks, obviously your warrior monks, and a mix of other classes such as clerics, paladins, and even wizards who have more of a knowledge domain. Above the Avowed are the 8 great readers, and they make up the Council of Elder Avowed, who manage the runnings and the upkeep of Candlekeep itself. Sitting atop our rank, I guess you could call it, we have 2 more figureheads. We have the Keeper of the Tome and the First Reader. Now, the First Reader's job or main focus is to maintain the integrity of Candlekeep's scholarship and to continuously expand its ever-growing literary resources. Now, the Keeper of the Tome is in charge of managing the Great Library, and their word is law. To gain access into Candlekeep, players need to provide a book or a written piece that the Great Library does not already hold. Now, there are some DMs who take this in a very strict manner, where your players must really provide something of great value, great lore, and great ability that the library does not have. Whereas there really is a lot of leeway. For example, you could go down the route of they must provide things that are highly valued, which would keep them from just always going there and finding out free information, I guess you could say. Whereas if you would like to be a bit more lenient, players could provide things such as a wizard's spell book. Perhaps it's one they found in an ancient lich or an ancient necromancer, or just an ancient spellcaster's tomb on their previous adventure. You could get pretty abstract with it in the sense that, say your bard is actually composing a journal entry novel story-esque sort of book based on the player's adventures, and they've had some recent adventures that are quite notable and word is starting to spread about their deeds, they could offer up that actual book to be part of the library. On top of that, you could really even go further into leeway or further into options where the Great Library will actually accept things such as older editions of books that they already have, or even newer editions that they have. Perhaps they found the first ever reading or writing of the history of Faerun or the history of the Sword Coast, or maybe even just scrawlings of notes that pertain to adding to the actual making of Faerun. But on top of that, you really could go anywhere with it. In some instances, you could even have a Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince moment where the players have a book that is quite a regular book that you could get, such as the Potions book, but inside of it there are scrawlings and notes hidden within the borders that provide more information, more insight, and more ideas that is quite valuable to the library. So really, you can play with it. So DMs, make sure that your players understand that it doesn't have to be a specific great book. They'll even take spell scrolls. Maybe the spell scroll that they are given was actually provided to them by a great wizard and they're not going to use it. They're actually going to use it as a way to get in. Maybe they sign it off with the fact that they were the wizard that created that spell or other spellcaster. So play around with it. It's actually a really great way to gain access into what is a really cool place. Now, once your players are permitted into Candlekeep, is all that they can do is read? No, there are so many things you can do while you're there. Now, obviously, the Great Library is the point of interest. That's where you get most of your information. Players have a 10-day to gain as much information as they can. They're allowed to ask the Avowed to provide assistance in finding books, finding novels, finding lore, as well as being left alone to kind of wander the library as much as they would like. Now, there is obviously within reason. I'm sure there are some pretty secretive places that are there. But this is definitely a way for players to gain knowledge. Now, apart from reading books, they can even purchase things. They can purchase, for example, spell scrolls. They can purchase wizards' whole spell books because they would get copies of them. They could even speak to an Avowed who is actually doing some really intense research into a topic that they would like to have more information on, or that it pertains to their actual current journey. And so they can pay to have a copy of that book given to them. So when they leave, they have this book that provides more information that helps them along their path. Now, wizards are going to love this place because it is a place where you can get spell scrolls, you can find wizard books, and you can obviously collect new spells. So DMs, be aware that this may be their end goal. So you need to figure out exactly how much they're going to get. How long does it take? I believe it's Xanathar's Guide to Everything that will help you understand how a wizard has to copy down how much time and money it takes to put a spell into their spell book. But it's a fantastic place for knowledge to be gained. So in my research, I did manage to come up with 3 specific names that I thought were really interesting and might play into the new book. The first one is Alundo the Seer. Now, not a founder of Candlekeep, but nonetheless a big influencer. He was a great sage who sprouted these prophecies, and over time, over the years, they would come true. So I believe that there's going to be something, well, I'd like to see something done with him in the story. After that, we have Savrok, the Savrok Unchev, who is a spawn of Baal, a mortal spawn of Baal, the Lord of Murder. Basically, in 1368 DR, he actually infiltrated the Great Library of Candlekeep, filled it with doppelgangers who posed as citizens and monks, that way he would have time to research and find information that would hopefully one day provide him more knowledge on how to complete his quest of gaining more power and immortality. Long story short, he wanted to usurp good old Daddy Baal and become the Lord of Murder himself. But that doesn't quite work out. And finally, in more recent editions, in Baldur's Gate, The Descent into Avernus, you actually travel to Candlekeep to speak with a tiefling known as Silvara Savicus. And her main duty there at Candlekeep is that she is very knowledgeable on the Outer Planes. I'm not going to tell you why you meet with her. You need to read the story yourself, or better yet, run it for some people. Or have your DM run it for you. So why do I bring these 3 people up? Now, the last one that I mentioned for Descent probably won't come up again, but might be someone that you revisit should you have already played that story. So what can we expect from this new book, Candlekeep Mysteries? Knowing that the adventures circulate around finding a book in the library which spurs you on a mystery, I do get this idea or this feeling that we could have some real Mario 64-esque jumping into painting adventures, but instead of a painting, it's a book. And then you go on your adventure. Now, when I spoke of Alundo, the seer, I would really like to find some of his prophecies or even some journal notes. Perhaps there's a prophecy that is related to Candlekeep that needs to be solved to save Candlekeep, to keep it protected. Or you need to go into the past of some kind by jumping into the pages of a book to complete a prophecy. Because if we go down that time travel sort of area, even if it's not his journal writings, I'm sure that Candlekeep has written lore of pretty much all the calamities that have ever happened in Dungeons and Dragons. And so maybe there is this prophecy that is written where in a time of great need, heroes will appear mysteriously and then vanish just as mysteriously after completing their mission to protect the world. So it's almost as if though you go back in time and you are literally playing out an adventure that is a story about your players saving the past, which I know is a trope that's probably done too many times, but I'd like at least one adventure where I get to do that and kind of witness one of the calamities really happening in a more recent edition style. On top of that, we could also see perhaps Savrok, the mortal kid of Baal. Perhaps his soul is still wandering through the library, trying to find that information, or trying to find information to get revenge on those who thwarted him. It really could be up to your players to stay within the the keep, and actually try and find him and put his soul to rest, or to vanquish it and send it finally on to see his dad and see what he thinks of him trying to take his throne. Basically, I am really excited for this story, or these many stories. I do think there's a lot to play with in terms of Candlekeep, and I'm very excited to have more information on the actual place itself. What I would really like to see is a mix of adventures that are more traveling, more Waterdeep style, where you are working within the walls of Candlekeep and you're trying to solve mysteries there using the book's information to travel through the layers of the library. And then on top of that, I'd also like to have some Yawning Portal styled adventures that takes my players to a different place. Overall, I think it's going to be a really good book. I hope that this video has helped you gain some insight into Candlekeep. Comment down below anything that you think might happen in this story, and I'll see you in the next one.